And more importantly than anything, we're talking today about giving for forgiveness, is to not really even forgive that person or that person for doing what we perceive they did to us, but instead of this thing called self-forgiveness. And what is self-forgiveness? Self-forgiveness says, I forgive myself for judging myself as ever being less than. I forgive myself for ever judging myself as being less than lovable, less than perfect, less than whole, and less than divine, because that is my birthright. I have to forgive myself for betraying my truth. Yes, let's all take a deep breath. We have to forgive ourselves first and foremost. And know we were doing the best that we could at that time, and as we are now doing the best that we can at this time. To practice self-forgiveness. I forgive myself for judging myself as anything less than perfect, whole, and divine. What you'll see when you fully grasp that concept is things do start to shift in your life. Self-forgiveness. So what's the process of self-forgiveness? As I mentioned, the first thing that we need to do is identify that there's forgiveness that needs to happen. And how do you do that? Live. Walk outside. Walk around. Call your parents. Call your siblings. Whenever anything disturbs your peace, there's an issue that needs to be addressed. Anything externally that disturbs your peace, that creates upset in your body temple, needs to be looked at. And there usually is some self-forgiveness that needs to happen. Why? Because our body temple knows that we are out of peace. Our body temple tells us when we are out of the state of consciousness that we were meant to be in when we were born. Hit in the stomach is a warning sign. Your body's telling you you're not present. Your body's telling you you need to look at something. So identifying who are the people that you need to forgive. The second thing is, and by the way, A Course in Miracles says this: all disease comes from a state of unforgiveness. And whenever we are ill, we need to look around to see who it is that we need to forgive. And what we truly find out is we can use what people are bringing up for us as an opportunity to identify what we need to forgive within ourselves. That's the whole phenomenon of projection. And that's what I love about this way of life, is to be aware that everything that happens in our lives can be used for us. Everything bar none. We might perceive it as positive or negative, our experience, but there truly is no such thing as a positive or negative experience. It is, what are we doing with it? Everything is done and is created and happens for our own health, our own evolution, and our own growth. And the world mirrors for us what we need to work on in here. So if something happens with my father, and I'll say, darn him for doing this, that is a sign that I need to do something in here about that area that I'm bringing forward. As Don Miguel Ruiz says in his book, The Four Agreements, it's not what I'm saying that's hurting you. It's the wounds that are coming up by what I have said. You're hurting yourself. So I'm here to tell you, use every situation in your life for your healing, for your growth, and for your evolution. Everything, bar none. Now, is that easy? No. And for me, it certainly is no exception. Okay? And I love what Dr. Sharon says, is when some things happen that we perceive as a negative, or that we are just angry about, allow yourself to be a victim. Allow yourself to do it. But for only 2 minutes. Set the egg timer and go at it. Say how angry you are, say how resentful you are, say how it's not fair. Let it all out. And then when that dinger goes off, you have to ask yourself, why is this happening for me? Why is this happening for me? You know, it's a very interesting time in our world right now. I'm sure a lot of you can probably agree with that. It certainly has been a very challenging year for me. The year that I thought I would have was not at all what happened. And you know what? I'm grateful for it. I give thanks for that. Because in what I perceived, what appeared to be a challenging year for me, was a year that many, many gifts came forward. Firstly, I received a teacher. I prayed for a teacher that would help me get deeper into my practice of becoming present. Because in the present moment, we have all things, we are cared for, and all is well. Truly. So that was one of the gifts that I wouldn't have had if my life kept working for me like it was. My business basically stopped because of the economy. You know, life coaching is usually a luxury. And people, usually, that's the first thing that goes when we're having hard times. So my business basically stopped for me. It gave me an opportunity. It was happening for me to stop myself being a teacher, right? A minister, you'd think would get this, right? But we're all humans. I didn't realize how much I was putting my own worthiness according to who I helped. My worthiness was in direct correlation with how many people were sitting across from me in my office. That didn't work. The universe wanted me to get that. It was happening for me. And a beautiful part of that process also came this wonderful thing called being humbled. And for me to truly do this work that I love to do, that I'm so deeply passionate about, I don't want an ounce of ego in there. And I was able to see how it was. Another tremendous, tremendous blessing for me. Wonderful, wonderful things that have come forward from this past year, which I perceived as being negative, as being a challenge. It was happening for me, but I had to first be aware that it was happening for me and then ask why. How can I look at this differently? Life truly is about how we perceive it. So the first thing is to identify what areas of your life have you not forgiven others or yourself. And remember, if you haven't forgiven somebody else, that is a mirror of what you need to do for yourself, for your own self-forgiveness work. First thing, identify what needs to be healed. Second thing is remember your truth. Remember that core belief that was planted between the ages of 5 and 10 is not true. Any lack-based belief that you have in your consciousness is not true. It is not in alignment with your truth. So the second thing you must do over and over and over again is remember truth. I am perfect, whole, and divine. And use that as your mantra every morning, every afternoon, every night. You put sticky pads around your house. You set your Palm Pilots as a recurrent event, so 3 times a day it says, remember truth. You do whatever you need to do practically to remember this, because you know what? Life happens really fast. The minute you walk out of this room, you're going to forget your truth. I certainly do. And so I put these practical things in my life to remember that. And by the way, to help people out, I have created little sticky pads in the form of a star, because you are a star. And I want you to put things on these sticky pads that say, I am perfect, whole, and divine. I am lovable. I am enough. And there are some of these out there for you that I'd love for you to take to help you remember who you truly are.